What's up, everybody? Please excuse me for my shitty quality right now. Today we're doing podcast 10, and once again, I'm with my most honorable co host, Wyatt Stav, and our special guest, Matthew Runaway. Good day, gentlemen.
What's going on?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
What's
How
up,
are you,
Matt? How you doing,
peeps?
dude?
Oh, pretty good. How about you, man?
Good, man. I don't know. Playing lots of drums. That's been lit.
True.
So yeah, let's start off with what you've got going on right now. So, um, yeah, what do you have going on right now? Because we haven't seen any releases from you in a little bit, and obviously, like, it's a tough time to be an artist, given the fact that it's hard to be in rooms with people and borders are closed and everybody's uptight about contact. So, yeah, what's been going on despite all that?
Yeah, man. Honestly, it's almost been crazier than when things were open for me. During this time off, obviously, I started the YouTube channel, and that started blowing up. So that was just one more thing that I had added to the list. And right now, we are recording two songs and trying to shoot two videos before fall. Or well, I guess it is fall, but before winter because the songs kind of represent a spring summer feel. So we can't obviously shoot those when snow's on the ground. So it's an incredible time crunch right at the moment.
So with radio, there's a very fine-tuned process to releasing a track that goes to radio, right? I mean, I've heard of it. I've never done it myself, but with that, I'd love for you to take us through just exactly why the deadlines are the way they are, and then what the process is to actually like produce a single that can go out to radio. Like, what are the things behind that? What are the things that you keep in mind? How do you go about writing, all that kind of stuff? If you want to take us through just exactly how you get your music heard, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's it's a tricky process. Starting out with the writing, you don't want your song to be too long anymore, and the pressure keeps getting put on to be shorter and shorter and shorter. Like back in the day, it wasn't uncommon for us to hear 4 minutes and 30 seconds on the radio, sometimes even longer, depending on the station you were listening to. But now you're really pushing the limit at 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and the golden spot is 3 minutes. And there's even songs out there um, that are 2 minutes, 50 seconds. Like, I mean, even one of the album reviews that we did the other day together, half of the songs on it were under 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So that's a huge thing to keep in mind now. And then the other is that you want to write something that's relatable to people that they want to hear, but yet unique enough that it's you. So that's um, that's always the tricky thing. I guess if you were going into it with 100% of I'm writing this only for radio, what I tend to try and do is write as many songs as I can, and out of those 50, I might pull three or four where I'm like, okay, that'll work for radio, or this one's a great song for radio. Then obviously we put it into production. So once you put it into production, again, you can't do the absolute crazy things that you may want to do. You only have 2 minutes and 50 seconds to do that. So almost guitar solos are almost cut out now. Um, Anything that has that kind of elaborate feel to it, and you have to kind of crunch that into like a 2 minute 50 second song, and then have it polished and clean enough that it meets radio standards. Right? There's no written rule per se of what a radio standard is, but we all kind of hear it and know it, if you know what I mean by that. And
Yeah.
then once you're having that process done, then you have to find yourself a really good radio tracker. And there's tons of them out there. There's tons of bad ones. There's tons of mid-level ones, and there's very few good ones. But depending at the level you're at, you're not going to get in with the good guys right at the start. You know, the major label guys have the best, and I don't have access to them, right? So I have access to really good radio trackers, but just not the best in the business yet. And so their job basically is to be pitching you to radio stations and using their connections to get you on radio. Now, that's only as good as their relationship with the people, right?
Oh, that's super interesting. I didn't know that. So this, like, the role that you described, radio tracker. This is an individual who is involved with the recording process, but then also is involved to some capacity to actually help you get on certain stations and get the music out there. Is that how that works?
Yeah, they're usually not involved with the recording per se, but with the tracker that I use, I'll send them little glimpses of songs and say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think radio would think of this? Or get kind of opinions about that, and he'll be like, kind of long, or intro's not like, I'm not captivated in the first 20 seconds, and then I'll go to the producer and be like, okay, so here's the deal. I had 5 different people that I've asked about this song, and everybody said in the first 20 seconds I just wasn't pulled in, but the chorus was great. So now we got to try to figure out how to pull people in, because really we have 20 seconds to captivate somebody's interest, and they're gone, right?
So this role of radio tracker, is this kind of like if you were to book a tour and go through a booking agent? Is that kind of like a parallel?
Sort of like they're more on your team than say like the venues like would be with that, but
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So their job basically is working for you, and they've built relationships with radio stations. So very rarely is somebody like good with every radio station. Like usually, if they're a pop radio tracker, that's what they do. If they're rock, they're rock. If they're country, they're country. Um, so yeah, you kind of want somebody that specializes and has relationships with these people, and that's kind of it, right? Like if you cold message radio stations, the likeliness of you getting played is pretty slim. You might have a chance, but it is a little bit difficult.
The next question I want to ask was about the duration of the songs and the new limitations, I guess. So, what is that? I mean, I can obviously predict, but I'd love for you to paint it for us because you probably have a much better understanding of it than I do for sure. What is it about the shorter songs and the structures that you're sort of limited inside of? I imagine that BPM is going to be a restraint. The amount of time before the first chorus hitting, those type of things are obviously going to come into account when it comes to the actual logistics of putting the song together. So, what is it about those specifics that makes a certain song more desirable to current radio? Like, what is it about a shorter track, for example? You know what I'm saying?
So I mean, there's tons of reasons, right? But as an artist, I don't like that. But obviously, we have to do what we got to do, and I think one of the things that they love is they can jam more music in, they can fit more ads in, they can do all these kind of things and just get more and more and more the processing time, right? One of the big things that I've noticed is that they can just hit you with a really catchy tune and then have the next one on. The best example of that is TikTok, right? 10 seconds on to the next, 10 seconds on to the next. People's attention span is getting so short because there's so many things out there, right? And it's just getting harder and harder to get people to pay attention. So they don't want to lose that viewer in the first 10 seconds, right? They want to keep you there all day.
That's really interesting. I personally would have predicted it had something more to do with more to do with the I guess yeah, that makes sense with like not losing the viewer. That's kind of along the lines of what I suspected, which would be something along the lines of like if you take a condensed song structure, you're going to have more of the tag and less filler overall, less things that people need to interpret. Because I feel like I don't know if this is the case, but I feel like as we progress along, the radio genres are getting almost like more and more simple. It's like people can't, the masses can't necessarily interpret really complicated music anymore.
Oh, absolutely. Like that's exactly it. That's the whole point of the songs being smaller, right? You only have 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So the kind of the structure now that I have is like a 2-bar intro, um, your verse, a verse, full size chorus, half verse, then full chorus, and just a tag for the bridge. Like we're not bridges are almost out, like they are in there still, but eventually I can see them going out because more and more you're just seeing a slowed down tag of the chorus back into the last chorus, and then that's it. Like that's the song.
Do you think that the reduction in radio listeners because of new technologies is sort of forcing radio to well, I imagine that's probably the case, right? The fact that less people are listening, you obviously need to get more ad time in just to pay for the same, just to have the same budget that you've had all along. I guess something along those lines, right?
Yeah, and another a big one, right, is it's an industry that's holding on, right? I think it will always be around, but will it be as strong 10 years from now? I don't think so, right? They do get a lot of funding from government, in America and Canada, and I assume mostly all around the world, radio is hugely funded by government. It's something that needs the help. If it was solely on the money that they're making, I don't think they could survive anymore because of
So
things like Spotify and Apple Music.
so do you think 10 years from now, let's just say a hypothetical radio is gone. Well, let's say 5 years from now. 5 years from now, hypothetical radio is gone, disappeared off the planet. Do you think that the how do you think that the new mediums, whether it be listening on YouTube or finding discovering people on Apple Music, Spotify, or any others that I'm not really or any others that I'm not mentioning, do you think that those replacement mediums will alter the song structure, and how so? Like, do you think songs will get long again because of that, or what's your take?
No, I don't think they'll get any longer. I think they'll either maintain where they are or get shorter again, because with more and more artists out there and technology developing, I mean, we all know it. You don't even have to be able to sing to be a singer now. Country music is one of the genres where, for the most part, you actually have to be able to sing pretty well to succeed in it. But there are genres out there like pop music that you don't have to be that great at all to make it. Modern processing can really fix you. So
You don't have to be a musician at all.
yeah, exactly. So, with that being said, there's more and more people becoming singers and more people pushing themselves into the world. So, I honestly don't see that changing. And Spotify, if people aren't realizing that Spotify and YouTube and online is not going to be the future, I think they're really going to fall behind in their career. They're going to have to pick themselves up and have a big transitional period because it's.
I think this is a great quick segue into something I want to touch on briefly with today's episode, because I know you and I have spoken about it, but I'd love to include it in the podcast, especially just with what we've already been talking about. And that's what do you think will be long? What do you think will be some of the long term effects of this Spotify deal that they struck with Joe Rogan? The deal that Spotify has struck with Joe Rogan, bringing him onto the platform, and he now becoming the number one streamed. I guess you could not really artist, but streamed individual, streamed content on this once was pretty much exclusively music platform. What do you think some of the ramifications for the music industry will look like?
So, my opinion on this, and this is just a personal opinion, I think this was one of the biggest things to happen in the music business in a long time. And this being Spotify signs one more massive artist exclusively, they now become a record label to me. And who's going to fear that more than anybody but record labels themselves? So, say, let's use Drake for example, because he's one of the biggest artists in the world. They sign this guy to $100 million or whatever deal they decide is suitable for Drake. Exclusive music to them. They push it out. I'm 99% sure Spotify is going to launch a video platform in the next 3 years. So that takes care of that. That's the competition for YouTube. They have every means to push your music out to anything in the world. They can put you on playlists. They could take me and get me 60 million views by tomorrow. Like they have the ability to do that for whatever artist is theirs, right? So why do you need label distributing now? Because Spotify can do it. And then as far as touring, if Drake decides he's going to go on a tour and hires a tour manager, I don't think he's going to have too much trouble booking a tour. You know what I mean? Like I don't think you need a record label for that. So
Yeah,
why
yeah.
why does he need a label now? That's the big one. I think that's what record labels fear, and it's the writing on the wall, right? So they know it. The industry people know it, and they're fighting it. But
Do you think that if the industry does progress in that manner, would you say that that is advantageous or disadvantageous for the artist? Like, where does that put people making music, in your opinion?
I think it's tricky. It can go 50-50, right? But I always try and look at the positive. I think that the artist that's willing to hustle and work hard, I think it's going to be a huge advantage for them because it's just going to be more opportunity for something like that versus a record label. You know, with a record label, it's like, if you're not this image or whatever we're looking for at the very moment, you're not getting a record deal. You know what I mean? Where Spotify, at any moment, your music could go viral. You just don't know. So I really believe for the small person, um, that it could really help them. Like for
For
one,
smaller
one,
musicians.
yeah, one big example of it. Not that he's small; it's so outside of my genre. But there is a rapper called Tom McDonald out of Vancouver, and he now lives in California. This guy is independent, blowing up millions and millions and millions of views. Spotify is incredibly behind him, putting him on massive amounts of playlists. Yet record labels seem to be trying to put this guy's fire out. Like they don't want to deal with him because he calls them out, right? So that's another example of a artist fully independent that's just blowing up and probably making close to $1 million without a record label, fighting them at that.
Damn, dude. Dimitar, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, if I might step in, I just wanted to expand a little bit more because it sounded pretty interesting. Let's say that in a couple of years, Spotify is able to pull off a video distributing service. So I guess that it's going to be either only music only. I mean, like for musicians, music videos, or people like me and Wyatt. Or because I doubt that you'll be able to watch on Spotify how to fix your car or something like this. But let's say that they decide to go that route, and in some cases they will be a direct rival of YouTube. What's your opinion on that? Would they be able to pull it off? Would they be able to actually be any real competition for YouTube? Because YouTube right now is the probably the biggest platform out there for video, and services like Vimeo and you know pretty much Vimeo is the only competitor right now. They're it's hard for them to keep up. So, do you think Spotify can change this? And is is going to be more desirable for creators?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, what do you think of that, Matt?
I think that Spotify will start off with a video platform for the podcasts like Joe Rogan. I think Joe Rogan's the I think that was an incredible sign just because of the fact
Yeah.
that they're just going to do what he did on YouTube, which was the most viewed anything on YouTube, really.
So I'll interject real quick. On the current Spotify app on mobile, the video has rolled out at this point. So Joe Rogan's podcast is now on Spotify, and when you are listening to the podcast, you can swipe to the right or the left, and depending on which way you swipe, you'll get either the video, and it'll look kind of basically like a YouTube video, honestly. I mean, yeah, pretty much. Or if you swipe to the other side, it goes to the audio format. And I think the only difference inside the app is just how much data you need to stream each medium, right? So if you're out and you're trying to watch the video, well, you're going to require more data to get that than you get the audio off the streaming service, right? So, but yeah, back to your opinion on it.
So yeah, I think it will start out like that, and then I think it will expand into then they launch the platform as the company grows, right? Like people, the thing people aren't forget is YouTube's worth like I can't think of the number, but it's absolutely massive. It's probably like $160 billion, but they pay a lot of like taxes and things like that because Spotify is a new company. They register $2 billion of profit, but they pay no tax because they pay for losses. They're giving Joe Rogan $50 million, right? So this is a company that is well run, and they're going to continue growing. It's still young, right? Where YouTube's been around for a long time, gone through a lot of CEOs. Um, YouTube is making it difficult for creators. Like I see it every day. People that are pissed off and upset at YouTube and how it's being run, and they've been making a living on YouTube for years, and now they're being demonetized because something, because of maybe a political view, whether it's right or left, and that's upsetting people. And I honestly feel like Spotify is just gonna, completely jump on top of that, going, "Come do your stuff here." Eventually, I think it'll take time. I don't think they have enough money to even launch something that big yet, but I think giving a video platform for podcasts and music videos and things like that, I think that's the way to do it, and I think that's how they will do it.
That'd be super interesting. That definitely is going to change the landscape going forward for both content creators and musicians alike. I think this is a great segue to talk about your own experiences on YouTube. So you've been doing YouTube for how long now, and how's that been going?
Yeah, I mean, like I've been doing YouTube for a while as far as uploading music videos and things like that. But as far as taking it really serious, I've only been doing this for about I think 6 months now or around there, and it's like everything else, man. A lot of people are looking for the fast track and upload a video. You know, we hear the people. You know, I'll upload one video and get partnership in my first video, or I'll get this without any help. You know, but it's work ethic. It's consistently making content. It's working hard, hitting roadblocks. You know, we all get the demonetized videos, and we have to work around that and find ways to make YouTube work for us. You know, learning the tags, learning about TubeBuddy, just the little in and outs of how to run that platform properly. And I think that's the biggest thing. Just you have to work hard.
So, Dimitar, I want to turn it over to you because between the two of you guys, you're both fresher to the platform than I am, just because I've been doing it on and off since
Yep.
2012. And then at the same time, Matt in the last 6 months has gone from nothing to a reaction channel. Well, not nothing. I shouldn't say nothing, but just small numbers in comparison to what you do now, obviously. Very low traffic, pushing up within 6 months to now you have 52 to 53,000 subscribers. You get, your average video does like 60 to 150,000 views, and that's crazy to see and hear. And then Dimitar, you just started the reactions for yourself within the last month, and as soon as you did that, you've seen a spike in your viewership as well. And now
Oh
you're
yeah.
pushing subs, and viewers are coming to your channel for the first time. So I'd love to turn it over to you if you have any questions, want to talk about that.
Well, yeah, it's true. It's true that it's amazing because um, I'm still wondering how, and I'm still dumbstruck by the fact that reactions actually get so much traffic, but
I know.
yeah, but at the same time, I totally understand that because reactions are easy to assimilate content. It's pretty, in most cases, it's pretty positive, lighthearted. It's very, you just go to, you just look up your favorite band, your favorite song. Chances are there are going to be at least 10 reactions.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just look it up, and what you're looking for is really not that honest of an opinion, but more like you're looking for people who are enjoying this as much as you do, and having in mind that maybe at least 90% of the reactions are positive. People are just having good time. It's like talking with friends and listening to music like in the good old days. And people are doing this because, well, I think it's a pretty deep topic because all the technology, and there is actual, the more we connect digitally, the more we disconnect physically.
Yeah.
So I just think that people are trying to
Have that
reproduce
connection.
that. Yeah, they
Yeah.
that have that kind of connection even with a complete stranger. And yeah, so I get why they get so much traction, but from a creator standpoint, I mean, for my reactions, I throw, out of all the videos I do, I throw the least amount of effort. I mean, I just press record, turn on the lighting, and I just talk. Whereas for the other, doing a drum cover, you learn the song, you master it, you record it, you record it 15 times if you have to.
Yeah.
For vlogs, you're just walking around trying to find a good place. You're talking for hours and hours so that you can have like 15 minutes of good content.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very strange how the thing that requires the least amount of effort actually rewards you the most. So I was interested because this is my experience, and the more I do it, the bigger my channel grows, and maybe this is the number one factor for my sudden growth. So I just wanted to ask Matt if he experienced the same. How did it happen just almost overnight for him, and what his thoughts are about this?
Yeah. So mine was it was weird too. I had first decided I never even started YouTube to be like, oh, I'm gonna be doing this all the time. To be honest, what it was for me was I'm going to do because music is everything. Like what I do is like, it's, if you paid me nothing, I'd still be doing it. If you paid me $1 million, I'm still going to be doing it. I'm not going to quit, and I'm not going to stop pushing. Sorry. So for me, it was a way to help build a fan base to help push my music, and then it happened to be fun. So that's basically how it started for me. Was, and I mean, to this day, it's still, my music is, I put countless hours into it. So it's still about helping to push my original music and build my career. But basically, how it started for me was I released a video. I can't remember. The first one was Godzilla, Eminem, reacting to that, and it actually did okay. It got like 1,000 views in a couple days. And to be honest, I thought like my music videos did better, but because it's a reaction video, it's like, oh no, that's not too bad at all. Wow, I can do this. And then I got this great idea. I'm like, I'm gonna do this little almost skit on my next video. It's gonna really work. It's gonna pop off. It's gonna be great. And I put it out, and it completely bombed. I don't even know if it got 100 views. And I was like, huh, okay. So I found myself almost going back and reinventing it over and over because I just didn't want to do simple reactions. And like, I'm not calling anyone out online. There's some massive channels out there that you can tell that they're fake. You can tell it's like nobody picks their chair up and throws it against the wall when they hear something for the first time, right? So it's a little overdone. So I try to just be fully honest with it and dissect the music and talk about really intricate little things that happen maybe in a song that people don't realize, and then talk about that. And honestly, it seems like people like the personality along with what I'm doing. I have a great gimmick too, right? So it's like I have a fan base with my country music. So I never even put my name in it in a marketing standpoint. I go country singer reacts to Parkway Drive, or country singer reacts to Juice World. And I think what happens with that a lot is you have these fans, especially metal guys, will be like, this country singer's listening to metal, he's going to shit talk it, and I want to shit. Like, they're just ready to come in fighting. And then they're like, oh, okay, this guy's cool, like, to say he does this and likes this, that's interesting. And same as rap. You have people come in like, this guy's not going to shit talk my favorite artist. And then they realize, like, I'm not, right? So that's kind of the way I do it. And yeah, just one day it started rolling, and I just capitalized on it. I just released videos almost every day. And then, yeah.
It's super interesting how the three of us all feature reaction channels on our platforms. Sorry, I said that wrong. The three of us feature reaction content on our channels. And we've all did it because at some point or another we were like, well, I got something to promote. Maybe if I check out some music and people like my personality while I'm checking out, they'll check out my other stuff. That's super interesting.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like we all started the reactions for the exact same thing. I see a lot of people doing the same thing, and like you start the reactions up, and you do it because you have something else on the channel or something else somewhere, and you want to promote that. It's so strange to see that. It's also really strange to see how from the standpoint, especially with my channel, just because of the size of it and the quantity of reactions I do, also the genre that I'm in, I get a lot of bands and labels reaching out to me, offering to pay for reaction videos.
That's one thing I want to talk about. It's that's the way of the future. My next release, I'm literally going to contact every reaction channel I can. I'm not going to pay for PR, because here's the thing. I've paid $10,000 for PR and get very little out of it. You play on breakfast television, or you do these things, but it's like, and there's nothing against like playing on like breakfast television or anything like that, but it's not my demographic, right? Where I can reach out to these reaction channels and get 100,000 views on a channel that a $10,000 PR company could never get me.
Yeah, that's the really, really crazy part is that. Well, there's also a disconnect too that I've seen. That's another thing too that's kind of disturbing, especially for the smaller reaction channels, the guys that maybe don't know exactly what you just said, which is just how much money goes into getting eyeballs on pieces of content, right? Because
Hmm.
what I've seen too with some of even in my master students, I've definitely seen cases of guys getting approached by a label, like an institution, not just an artist trying to get signed or trying to, blow their music up or whatever, but like a full-on label reaching out to an artist and offering them some sort of package
T-shirt.
to, yeah, exactly, like that's the bullshit behind it, is that there's this opportunity now for labels to totally cut the cost of their marketing and get way bigger returns and do it for almost nothing just because they're relying on a kid feeling starstruck that Rise Records offered a free shirt if they'd check out the new song by so and so. And what's even almost more gross about that is that they're double dipping from the standpoint of they won't offer whitelist. So now they're running, if your video blows up and you get 100K, well, you're not receiving any of the money on that. They asked you to
Yeah,
do it. They gave you the t-shirt to wear in the video. You're doing it for them for free. You're not getting paid by them or by YouTube, and they're taking the ad revenue on your product. So they sent you a $5, that's how much probably it cost to print the shirt, $5 item for them, and now they've got all this PR exposure, and you
yeah,
times that by like all of the reaction channels out there, and all of a sudden you have a viable PR strategy for every release cycle for a new artist that costs almost nothing. And then to think about it even from the artist standpoint, well, I don't think that the artist's contracts are going to reflect this dip in PR. Like now the label is just 100% banking off of the fact that the artist team might have glossed over the fact that, well, the PR and marketing budget is gone, and the label's now still taking the same amount of money from the artist as well as now taking the money out of the people marketing the music, which is just
exactly.
fucking insane, but perfect for the label. So that's kind of that can be a pretty gross practice depending on how you look at it. And the way I spelt it out is pretty nasty. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, I get the same thing where people reaching out, and it's funny for me being an artist, and I have to promote my own music and push and pay for PR and stuff like that. It's I think you have to know your worth, and I think you have to stand by it, even when people tell you, oh, you're charging way too much, and this person's doing this. It's like whatever, like if you're not willing to spend $100 on your own PR for your own career, then why should I waste my time making a video that nobody knows about? And I'm not saying that like, oh, I'm too good for that. I'm not at all. But I pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get where I am, to get, to crack top 100, and you're not willing to spend $100. It's just like, like there's, I don't know where people get off on that. And it's a
Well,
credible
yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah, it is. It really is. For the price of it, it's insane. It's
So
absolutely insane.
reaction channels are so slept on, and I honestly believe in the next 2 years, like people are going to be woken because it's not cheap to go to radio. If you chart, you make good money, and I'm not going to lie, you make good money. But if you don't, you lose a lot of money. Like I'm saying, all said and done, if you're not cracking top, if you're not getting near top 100 or getting on XM satellite radio, you're losing $10,000 instantly. So if you're not getting on that stuff, it's very difficult. Where you can
Gotcha.
pay a reaction channel to get you in front of 100, you know, 10 reaction channels for say even 3,000, 4,000 bucks, and you probably get cheaper than that. You're in front of probably more people than almost what you are on radio.
I would say
Yeah,
that
it's
for
astonishing the cost. Go ahead.
yeah, sorry. I would just say that I think that reactions for channels like us, where we started for a whole nother reason, and as what very properly said, that we're doing it because we want to promote our other content, which we're pretty proud of. I think that it's safe to say that the reactions are our OnlyFans accounts, because we know why people are coming here, and we just won't even pretend that we're so, you know so amazed by it and so dumbfound. And one more thing, I'm going to become to get really TED talk right now, but on the point that we should have, and we should know our price and our self-worth. I think that goes for pretty much any content creator. Doesn't matter if it's a musician, if it's photographer, videographer, whatever. If you're knitting pretty cool gloves, yeah, pretty much. So I was talking the other day with a client of mine, and I had we had a deal for me to record stuff and record some songs, and I was explaining this that in order for me to do that, it doesn't matter if it's a video, doesn't matter if I'm recording a song or whatever. This is my art and this is my job. So in order for me to perform this job, I have expenses. I'm spending time. I'm throwing in effort. So it's I could say to all the channels that are being offered just a T-shirt or a pat on the back or a shout out. This is another favorite of mine. We'll give you a shout out. Who cares? You know, I don't pay my bills with shout outs.
Yeah,
And
mortgages don't get paid with shoutouts, right?
yeah, I mean, when you go to the store and you want to buy, I don't know, bread or meat, they don't tell you, yeah, sir, this costs 35 shout outs. No, they ask for money. And just for old, because I still have not been approached by labels or something. I had some requests from friends of mine. They have local bands, and probably I'll do some paid reactions and reviews. But what I would say is people don't agree to almost to nothing uh, just because it's Rise Records or it's Fearless Records, whoever the fuck this is. You're not getting famous. You're not getting any, anything. You're just getting a pat on the back and dust in the eyes.
Yeah, you're
So
just
yeah,
getting used. You're getting
and you
taken
have
advantage of.
absolutely, yeah.
and you have to protect your fan base, right? Like, here's the thing: it's like if you're just reacting to these unknown artists, people do get annoyed. You can tell. Like, you're just an average band that nobody knows isn't going to get the same amount of views as an Eminem reaction video. It's just not, right. And if that's what you're putting out all the time, you're going to start losing subscribers.
Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
with the ads. I mean the sponsored videos. I mean, we all know this one mobile game that we're hearing about it all the time, and um, there are two sides.
Raid Shadow Legends.
Yes. So pretty much there's two sides to this story. One side is we're all creators. We need to pay the bills. We need these money. Whether or not you like it or not, I mean, as a creator, if you like this product, it's money. It's something you get for your work. But there is a fine balance, and you should be pretty careful how often you're doing this because, as you said, fans are picking up on that pretty easily. And once you get um, once you get a label on yourself, like a sellout or somebody who's going to advertise pretty much anything, you know what? I was watching Six Six Amos, I don't know, last week, and he was promoting. And I'm not bashing him for that. I mean, as I said, we all need the money, but he was promoting something for manscaping, and I was like, really? I mean, you're not a fashion channel, you're not a beauty channel.
Did he get Dollar Shave Club? I've been trying to get Dollar Shave Club, that lucky
I don't
bastard.
know, but it was, he was just, there was like 3 minutes which he explained how good is it to shave your balls, and I'm like,
Oh,
yeah,
I've seen that
okay.
ad.
I
Oh
came
yeah,
here
me
for
too. Everywhere.
drums, for fuck's sake, yeah. And yeah, I mean, I'm not bashing him because I'm a creator. I know how it is, and I really can understand that. But sometimes I think you need to have some filter on these things.
Okay, so yeah, shifting off that. So how let's talk about the point that Matt brought up, which is know your worth, right? Cuz like just speaking to the audience here, the majority of the people listening to this are probably content creators, most likely in their first couple of years of doing this. Maybe some of the audience checking this out today is starting to receive offers of some kind, right? And I personally wasn't very big when I got my first, and I wish I'd charged more then, but I figured it out later on just how much I thought I'm worth, and I still roll by those numbers. But I'd love to hear from you guys, and we can discuss this. How does one in a position like the three of us are in, because our channels are extremely similar, how does one figure out and decide, okay, what are my rates? How much am I worth? How much does a band need to be charged compared to a label, or what kind of things should I be what kind of things should I be agreeing to for whatever set cost? So what do you guys think on that? And how did you come to your own prices if you have them?
A big one that I did was, obviously, I'm friends with a few creators such as yourself, and we discussed that kind of thing, right? Um, but the other thing I did, I just sat there and said, hey, I have a song coming out in the new year, and I would like to know how much you charge to do a reaction of original content, and just wait for the replies, right? Um,
Oh,
some of them were, you know, massively high, and some of them were surprisingly low. There was one channel that was like in the millions, and they were only charging 250 USD, and I thought, wow, okay. But their thing was they were being 100% honest. If they didn't like it, they were going to shit talk it. So you run like if you have to know if your music's good or not, right? If it's not a strong song, and you're a rapper recording with a microphone and a ripped beat from YouTube, then you're probably going to get ripped apart, right? So that's a big one that I did, was just ask around.
yeah,
Well,
that's go ahead.
for me, I think I have like three pretty distinctive steps in figuring out my prices, whether it's for a reaction or whether it's for session work, whatever. So pretty much the first thing that I do is I ask what. uh,
Okay, cool.
no,
And
really.
one thing I want to add too is, if a record label is involved, double the price,
Yeah.
100% of
So
the
because it's
time.
like, I mean, how they're making more money than the artist ever would, so you can pay.
yeah. So first thing is I ask Wyatt or we discuss it. The second one is I ask myself, well, let's say a friend or an individual musician is approaching me, and we've all been there. Some of us still are, and we know how hard it is. So I'm asking myself, all right, so how much honestly would I be paying for service like that? And then the third one would be I would try to determine based on my effort and the amount of work and what it takes from me to perform this job. What is the absolutely bare minimum below which I would never go for anybody? And once I know all the three of these, or maybe where I didn't respond to me, so I know two of these, I'm I'm pretty much doing something like triangulation and find the middle ground because I'm not a big channel at all, by all means. Um, so you should be aware of that too. I mean, what Wyatt or somebody like him or even bigger would charge for reaction is way, way different than what I would charge simply because, our numbers are pretty different.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
There's I was approached by a band who offered me a very small sum of money. And I replied with, well, I didn't reply personally. My agent takes care of it, but I get to see the conversation. And essentially, they were like, you know, this is way too low. Like, she didn't even really take it seriously because the number was way too low. It was like, yeah, sorry, if you don't have at least this, we can't really talk about anything. And that's what happened. And then the artist fired back with, well, I go to this YouTuber, and then they referenced this individual. I go to this YouTuber all the time, and he charges me this much, and it was another really low number. And so I was like, okay, I know that channel, I know that YouTuber. Why is it that is this bullshit? Like, why is it? I don't know what he charges, but how is it that he's able to and he has a very large following, larger than mine. How is it that he's able to give a rate so low? Why would he do that? So then I went to his channel, and what I saw right away was the day that I showed up on his channel, he had 5 videos that day. Like literally 5 videos. You know how it says on your recent uploads, it'll say like
Yeah.
it'll say the hours up until 24, and then it just turns into 1 day ago, 2 days ago, three. I went and there was 5 videos. His entire recent uploads had hours on it. And I was like, oh, that's what he's doing, right? So this is a channel with a massive following because he uploads 5 videos a day. And of those 5 videos, none of them are getting any views. So that totally explained right away. Okay, that's why it's a low cost, because if you take that low cost and you times it by 5 per day, we're talking about an absorbent amount of money on incoming. Now, my channel, I upload once every second day, and sometimes it's reactions, sometimes it's not. So when I come around to do a paid reaction, if it does happen, there's two things that I look for. First of all, if a band hits me up and goes, hey, can you react to this? Very first thing I do is I play the first 30 seconds of the song. And I do not reply if it's like a garage band home recording. If it's something legit and there's a label involved and, you know, it's music that I could recreate, or that personally I feel like reaches a level that, hey, my audience could actually watch this reaction video and discover something to add to their Spotify. If I feel like that within the first 30 seconds, then I go, all right, now we can talk. And then I actually begin negotiating with that individual. But in some cases too, I've had bands hit me up and I've liked the song so much, the first 30, 40 seconds, you know, by 30 seconds into a track, you're probably hitting the chorus, especially if it's a well-constructed track, right? So I've had a couple examples that hit me up and I quote them back and I go, this is amazing. And they go, we can't afford that. And I go, all right, whatever you can afford, let's do it. You know, because if an artist is going to come through, it's kind of like what you were saying. Like, you got to keep in mind at times, like maybe hooking up an artist and throwing some artist that really has a lot of potential a favor like that and helping them grow, they can become a powerful asset to your, you know, contacts later on, and maybe bump into them down the line. Because if it's something that you're really impressed by and you have high standards like the three of us, then there's a good likelihood that that artist will, you know, get some traction in the industry, especially if you helped them out. It'd be a really cool thing if you help them get that, right? So yeah, there's a lot of different ways of looking at that, but I think across the board, the one thing everyone needs to make sure is that you never take the first number. I don't care who's approaching you, whatever they're offering, do not take it. You know, and that's just a rule in business. Is like, never take the first offer. You know, always quote something higher and then meet somewhere in the middle between your number and theirs. And if they don't want to negotiate, then they don't want to do business with you, and then you just have to move on yourself anyways, right?
Agreed.
I want to ask another thing, and I'm asking Matt as much as I'm asking you, bro. Because I just listening to you and thinking about what we're talking about, it just popped in my head. What's your response? And I know it's not a canned response, it's not the universal, but what would be your like general response to somebody coming to you? Assume he's not a dear friend of yours, and he just tells you the story of his life and how hard it is to be a little musician, and the struggles and stuff like that. And please do me this one time favor of doing it at a pretty low cost or doing it for free or something. What would be your position on that?
Uh,
First, go ahead.
no, you're good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, first thing I say is, what's your budget? I'm just kidding. I don't say that, but um, yeah, it's tricky, right? It's all a very individual process. One thing that I always like to say to people is, they usually don't come out with a price right away. They're usually asking how much it is, and so obviously I kind of do what Wyatt does. I'll listen to 30 seconds of it, maybe even under that, and decide whether it's like at a pro quality recording or if it's low quality. If it's a lower quality, I still do try and reply to them. That's when it's tricky, but obviously you can't put that on your channel. One of the things that I do with, if it is pro quality and they're just not going to meet the budget, I'll say, this is the budget, or this is what I charge. Let me know if you're interested. Regardless, I'll check out the song. I'd love to listen to it. It's just whether they decide to put it, like, to go forward with the reaction or not. That's one thing I always do, is I let them know, like, I love music. I'm interested in listening to it, and I'm definitely open to hearing it. It's just, business is business, right? If I love the track and it comes out and it speaks to me, sure, you can always cut a deal, but um, it's like like we said before, going into a car dealership. I love Corvettes; they speak to me, but I'm not getting a deal.
Exactly. That's the best way to put it there at the end. That's my stance on it personally. If somebody comes to me and they have a sob story, like I make sure I try my best to put a barrier between me and any outside contact whatsoever. So, I have a team around me that I'm incredibly grateful for and that help me do what I do. And that team is my barrier a lot of the time between interactions like this. So I don't have to do it. And that way it's not personal and it doesn't come off personal.
And
But
if someone
what I
if
go ahead.
someone's coming to you and saying, like, I'm putting in 10 hours a day in my craft, I've been working at it for a year, I've been doing this, chances are, because I don't believe in talent, I believe in work ethic, it should be good.
Yeah,
You'll be able to hear
exactly.
it. You'll be able to hear right
Exactly.
away if you're putting in 10 hours a day. If it's trash, then you're just bullshitting, right? Like, that's the reality of it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's the case there. And what I would say personally is like if I do come across a sob story and they're trying to convince me of whatever, I'll just link them my 2 a.m. video. Show me that you worked harder because I got up here, and how are you not up here yet? Something's not adding up if this sob story is really the case. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things. It's like the people who really deserve it, well, they get it one way or another. They don't have to beg and plead and scratch. They can like that was one thing that really opened my eyes in the music industry was like I call bullshit on anybody saying that this comes down to connections. I call bullshit on that because everybody who ever told me that was some kind of hack has been who didn't make it. Oh, and he would, it would always be the same story. Well, that guy made it instead of me because he knew so and so. It's like, yeah, I'm sure that's the reason. I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that you couldn't get off your fucking cell phone and stop smoking weed. I'm sure it had nothing to do with that, right? And like you hear that all the time is people making all these ridiculous, stupid excuses. But what it comes down to is you didn't put the hours in. Like you didn't rise and grind. Because when you rise and grind, everybody in the industry is obsessed with you. Like everybody at every level. If you have something worthwhile, everybody at every level will bend over backwards to do whatever they can to help you. And the reason why is because they want to be a part of what you're creating and steal as much from you as they can for as long as they can. So if you're smart, you're going to avoid the theft part of it. But also, if you have your shit together, most of the doors that you can beg and plead to open for you are going to open without you doing the likes of that because the people are just going to want to be involved with that. People, any investor who comes across a great idea or a great brand or a great product is going to invest. And it's
Mm-hmm.
very easy to find that connection you don't have to look. You don't have to look. I never did a single thing to promote my YouTube videos. I get kids coming to me and they go, "Hey man,
Yeah.
I've been paying hundreds of dollars on Facebook to promote my YouTube covers and nobody cares." I'm like, "Well, stop fucking wasting your money, bro. Save your money so that you don't have to work
Yeah,
as many
totally.
hours at your job, so that you can spend more time at the kit, so you can get good enough, so that people will care." So that's what I say if I ever were to get a sob story like that. I just ignore it, man. I don't have time for the likes of that because everybody out here, all men are
Yeah.
created equal. Some work harder in preseason, so it comes down
And
to that kind of mindset.
here's the thing, man. Too, like, back when I was struggling, when we were struggling in all of our starting out bands, no matter what sob story we gave or whatever, how many discounts did we get on recording? None. How many discounts did we get on music videos? None. Nobody ever gave us a discount. Nobody does that.
Yeah, dude,
No,
exactly.
it's like even when we were like struggling to eat, people never gave us a discount. That's their rate. If you want to make it, you gotta struggle. That's part
Yeah,
of it.
like I promise when you're on tour and you run out of gas money, the gas station doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
they don't care.
Absolutely. And on about what you said, what for connections, I can really relate to that because, and I was so amused, and I just found it so funny. Several people here from Bulgaria told me because I've said it a couple of times, but I'll just say it for the sake of it. Here, to be able to make it with music and content creation, it's a dirty word. It's something out of the legends, alongside with the elves and the orcs. It's some absolutely fantasy, and nobody believes in that. And I've heard like several times already from Bulgarians who told me, you know, your shit is getting traction just because you know Wyatt, and and it's coming from drummers too, which know about Wyatt, and they're like, "Yo, what's your friend? He's boosting you. He's helping you." And I'm like, "Well, hell yeah, he's helping me." But do you think that I would know Wyatt and we would be such close friends and everything if I didn't do my homework? Do you
That's
know?
like
Do you
that's
know?
like saying breathing, you would die without air. Well, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, do you know the amount of work I did, and I'm still doing? Because I'm sure that Wyatt's being approached by, if not thousands, then hundreds of people on a weekly basis. And chances are everybody wants something. Or even if not, chances are everybody wants to be closer to that guy who's getting more and more famous. And they want to, even if it's completely, good intention, they want to quote unquote steal something from him, from his craft. And I'm always saying, do you think that I would be able and be honored to have a podcast and having commenting on my videos and stuff like that if I did not do this work? I mean, and it's so funny because people are trying to uh, you know assign on you the first excuse for your success or upcoming success, because it's too much to take, uh, accepting that someone's just busted their ass off.
Yeah, man, 100%. Well, that's the thing. That's the defense mechanism, right? Is like the moment that you, like, and everybody says it, dude. Everybody. So here, there's two things that I stress really, really strongly. Well, there's one important thing. I'll cover that first. There's one important thing that I stress really, really strongly with any of my master's students, and those are the individuals who meet with me on a weekly basis, and we talk about where they're at in their career and where they're trying to get. And the one thing I tell them is take everything with a grain of salt, but don't just take everything with a grain of salt. Make sure you understand that if you're speaking to someone, you have access to that person. And the moment you have access to that person, that the likelihood that they're at your level is very high, right? Like you're not talking, if you're an actor, you're not getting to speak to Ashton Kutcher out the gate or Samuel L. Jackson out the gate. You're getting to speak to local dipshit has-been who's teaching acting lessons because he couldn't get a real job on the corner of whatever. And if you're taking that advice to heart, there's a fucking problem here because that's not where you want to be, you know? So when you're discussing anything with anybody, understand where that person's at before you start putting real trust and real emphasis in whatever they're saying. Understand where they're at and what they did to get there. And if it's somebody who you get access to who is exactly where you want to go, is exactly where you want to go, and you were privileged to get access to this individual, which we all have at times. It's rare, but we all have it in times. I can think back to probably 10 different individuals that really changed my life for the better because I listened to what they said because I was able to identify that they were where I wanted to get, right? So
Amen.
make sure you understand who you're speaking with. And if they have bullshit to say and they're at your level, well, they're at your level because they couldn't get any farther past it. So don't worry about whatever the fuck they have to say.
That's
And even then, as you keep climbing, you're going to get up to other levels and you're going to find more people stuck at those levels along the way. They're still not at the top. Don't take what they have to say seriously. Just take it with a grain of salt. Everybody could possibly have one golden egg. If they do, take it, steal it, run with it, roll with it, whatever. But if you can't find anything of value, don't take it seriously just because so and so said it. Are they doing what you want to do? No? Well, then don't fucking worry about it.
a personal story of mine is when I was living in Nashville. In one calendar day, I'd walked into, so I had two appointments with two major labels. I walked into one and they're like, "You're here because you have a little bit of height. We don't know what we do with you, and we don't really think you're that special." And you leave feeling pretty shitty, but you just move on from it. And I walk into the next label's office and they said, we wouldn't sign you yet, but we think you could be something real special. And we would definitely like to keep watching you. So someone's opinion of you does not have to project your reality. It's just an opinion of theirs, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Going back to what you were saying too, Dimitar, the anybody chalking things up like that is just a defense mechanism. You know, they're trying to spare themselves from their own suffering. You know,
Yeah,
and
they're
then I
trying to
think
lie to themselves.
yeah, exactly. Like they have something that they wish they could be doing. They
Yeah.
want so badly on the inside. Whether they've admitted it to themselves or not doesn't matter. They have a dharma and they're rejecting it. They're refusing to acknowledge it. And in their refusal of that, they're creating an overwhelming amount of discomfort and agony that they're drowning out with other means. I'm sure, you know, as we all do with our own struggles, right? And and then when they hear about somebody who succeeds at their dharma, the first thing they have to do is they have to tear that person apart, because if they don't tear that person apart, then they're the ones who have to take responsibility for the fact that they couldn't do what they wanted to do. And that is extremely painful, but also extremely powerful. Because the moment you wake up and go, oh, so you're saying that everything is my choosing? Everything that's happened to me is because I made either a good or bad decision to get me to this place. Once you wake up and realize that, well, then yeah, it's very uncomfortable for a minute. But once you get past the discomfort and you sort of embrace the realization, well, now you have the power to change anything you want. Now, as so long as you figure out which are the right decisions and which are the wrong ones, you just continue to consistently make the right decisions, and you'll get to whatever it is that you wanted to be at in the first place. And you won't have to come down on other people just because they get success. And then when that happens too, you as a person can open up and start to celebrate other people's, you know, because you no longer are living in despair. You no longer are living in scarcity, and you know, yeah, scarcity is the best word for that. You no longer are living in scarcity. And when you have a scarcity mindset, like when you have a mindset that everything is, there's no abundance and everything has to be fought for, and I have to save every penny, and you know, all the things that go with it, you don't live you're it's very difficult to maintain a healthy outlook and lifestyle, and it's also extremely difficult to celebrate other people's successes. You intrinsically search out others suffering, others attached to their own agony, and you encourage that behavior because that's what spares both of you from stepping up and acknowledging, hey, maybe it was my own fault that I made a dumb fucking decision that got me here, you know?
100%.
Totally, totally. And I think that this was probably the most wonderful ending that we could ever wanted for this podcast.
Yeah, we just hit an
Um,
hour.
yeah, we just hit an hour. I really personally don't think that I can top your speech with anything. So if Matt has something to say for a
Yeah,
goodbye,
anything we want to close out, Matthew?
Yeah, nothing. Honestly, man. Um, I thought that was a great closing.
Why don't you
Misery
just,
loves
Matt, why don't
company,
you
right?
just, yeah, exactly. Why don't you just, before we get going, let everybody know where they could check out you, your music, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. The daily content pretty much on YouTube. So that's YouTube /Matthew Runaway. And if you just want it simpler, you can go to www.matthewrunaway.com and it'll take you everywhere: Instagram, YouTube, merch,
Perfect.
everything.
Beautiful. There we go. Thank you, Dimitar. Thank you, Matthew. It's been a pleasure,
thank
boys.
you guys. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for being here, and we'll talk with you, Wyatt, next week. I hope.